Here's how to tie the rolling hitch. Take the end of the rope and go around the subject. Then cross the standing end and then do another full turn around it like this. Then go around the free end like this and finally tuck it underneath itself over here. And then tighten it before using it. In the end, it should look something like this, and it should be pulled in the direction opposite to the working end. If you pull it perpendicular to the object or in the other direction, then the knot isn't as strong. It's only meant to be pulled in this direction. It's usually used in construction for lifting up heavy tools, scaffolding pipes, and timber. In this case, another half hitch is tied around the other end of the object so that when it's hanging perfectly vertical. Here's how to tie the adjustable grip hitch. Start by taking the end of the rope and going around the support. Then go around the standing end 2 times. 1, 2. Then do another turn, but this time around both strands. And finally, tug the end underneath the last turn. Before using it, tighten the knot by holding it with your one hand and then with your other hand pulling the end of the rope and then repeating the same process, only this time pulling this strand. So the main idea of this knot is that you can adjust the size of this loop pretty easily, but at the same time, if you pull on the rope over here, then it doesn't tighten by itself. This allows you to easily tension this rope. For example, you can use it when tensioning your tent guy lines and in other similar situations. It is very similar to the Totline hitch, which is pretty much as reliable and just as easy to tie. The main difference here is that if it's sitting against a large diameter support, it doesn't work as well as the Totline hitch. Here's how to tie the double Alpine butterfly loop. It's super useful to know because it creates 2 very strong loops in the middle of the rope, which can be used as anchor points or to tension the rope sideways. And the best part about them is that you can use each loop separately or keep them completely empty, and the knot won't unravel by itself when it's pulled. Wrap the rope around your hand 1 full turn, leaving a large gap in between them. Now do 2 additional turns downwards in between them. Now take the 2 top loops and go over and underneath the 2 bottom strands that form an X. Take out your hand and pull on the ends to finish the knot. But before using it, make sure to tighten and dress it very tightly so that the loops don't come undone when they're pulled. To learn other useful knots, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Here's how to tie the barrel hitch. Use it any time you need to lift off heavy barrels or buckets. Start by taking the end of the rope and placing it like this, and then putting the bucket on top of it. Now take both ends, go over it, and do a simple overhand knot. Now expand the middle part of this overhand knot and put it underneath these lips over here. Then create a loop in the standing end, go through it with the working end around the standing end, and finally back through the loop to create a bowline knot. And that's how a finished barrel knot should look like. To learn other useful knots, subscribe to our channel. Here's how to tie the Clove Hitch, which is one of the most useful knots to know in everyday situations. To tie it, take the end of the rope and go around the post on the right side, then go around it once again, but this time on the left side, and finally tug the end of the rope underneath this strand over here and tighten it. But also make sure to dress the knot neatly together so that there's no slack when you pull on it. It isn't the most secure hitch, but it's pretty strong and you can tie it very easily. But what's even better, you can untie it very easily when you don't need it anymore. If you want to make it more secure, you can tie another half hitch around it here in the front. Instead of a half hitch, a lot of people like to do another clove hitch on the top, but I found that the bottom clove hitch usually tends to seize up pretty badly if you do that. Here's how to tie the Fisherman's Bend knot. Start by placing both rope ends next to one another. Then tie a simple overhand knot around the first rope and tighten it. Now tie another overhand knot with the other rope facing in the other direction. And finally, pull each rope in the opposite directions until they slide together. The best part about this knot is that it is extremely easy to tie because everyone knows how to tie an overhand knot just from tying their shoes. It's also really secure. It won't come undone only if you pull it with extremely heavy loads or if the rope itself is very slippery. But with most types of ropes, this knot is more than reliable enough, even when being pulled with a good amount of force. Here's how to tie the Diagonal Lashing Knot. Start by taking the end of the rope and wrapping it around both of the logs diagonally. Then take the shorter end and go around the longer end and go around itself 3 full turns. 1, 2, 3. This creates a timber hitch which grips both of the logs very well. Now do 2 full diagonal turns in the same direction. Ideally, you should do 3 turns instead of 2, but I don't have long enough rope with me right now, so I'm just going to do 2. After that, do another 2 turns, but this time in the other diagonal direction. Again, you should ideally do 3 turns. And then do another 2 turns between both of these logs. Make sure to tighten these ones very well because these hold the rest of the knot together. And to secure it, go around one of the poles and tug the end underneath itself and do that another time. This creates a clove hitch at the end, which keeps the rest of the knot from untying. Use this lashing knot whenever you need to tie together 2 sticks at a 90-degree angle. One benefit of this specific lashing knot is that it also works at 45 degrees, so you can use it to add cross braces to rectangular structures. To learn other useful knots, subscribe to our channel. Here's how to tie a figure 8 follow-through knot, also sometimes referred to as the rewoven figure of 8 knot. Start by creating a figure 8 knot at the end of your rope. Take a rather long piece of rope, then go under, up, under, and through the final opening. The finished knot should look something like this, and it should have a rather long piece of rope at the end of it. Now take the end of the rope and go over the attachment point that you'll be using. Now you need to retrace the figure of 8 that you just made, just in the other direction. To make sure that it's tied correctly, make sure that it has 3 sets of parallel ropes on each side. It's a very strong knot that's most commonly used in climbing for attaching to the harness, but you can also use it anytime you need to create a strong connection to a fixed object. The knot tightens by itself when it's pulled, so it doesn't require a stopper knot. But a lot of people, especially climbers, like to add another double overhand stopper knot for additional safety. Here's how to tie the transom lashing knot. It's a super useful survival knot because it creates a quick and strong connection between 2 sticks. Take the end of the rope and pass it behind the top of the first stick like this. Then go around the bottom in the opposite direction. Now go over the standing end and underneath the both 2 remaining strands. Tighten the knot by pulling the rope in the opposite directions. This knot is so great because it's super easy to tie, it's reliable, and it fixes both sticks roughly at a 90-degree angle. And it's also super easy to untie if you want to. If you want a more secure connection, you can tie another transom knot in the opposite side. The only thing to remember is that you should rotate it by a 90-degree angle. So instead of tying it like this, you would tie it like this. Doing this ends up in a much more reliable knot, which can be used even for permanent situations. Here's how to tie the Marlin Spike hitch, which is used to create a temporary rope ladder. Start by making a bite in the rope and then rotating it downwards. Then place the top end of this rope behind it and push it through. Now pass the stick through this loop and tighten the knot. Here's how it should look like in the end when properly tightened. This knot is useful for two situations. The first one is if you need help with pulling the rope with a handle. In this situation, it's worth noting is that it only works if you pull it in one direction. In the other one, the knot capsizes. The other one is to create a quick rope ladder by creating a Marlin Spike hitch on each end of the stick. But use it only for temporary ladders because if you shake it, the sticks can come out. To learn other useful knots, subscribe to our channel.